All right, let's jump right in. We're about to uncover this really fascinating, kind of unexpected connection that scientists found deep inside our brains, a direct link between how we handle stress and a system that acts a lot like cannabis. But first, I want you to think about something. Have you ever had that feeling? You know, right after something super stressful happens, and then just this wave of calm washes over you? It's like your brain finally slams on the brakes. But what if that's not just a feeling? Well, it turns out it is absolutely a real physical process. Scientists have now actually pinpointed the exact mechanism your brain uses to shut down that stress response fast. And what they found is a genuine surprise. So to understand how they cracked this, we got to start with the brain's command center for all things stress. Yeah, that's the HPA axis. You can just think of it as the body's stress thermostat. Something stressful happens, this system cranks up the heat, flooding you with hormones like glucocorticoids to get you ready to fight or flee. Okay, so the HPA axis is great at turning the stress on. No problem there. But the real puzzle, the thing that stumped scientists for ages, was how does the brain turn it off? And not just slowly, how does it slam on the brakes, like instantly? That's the mystery they were trying to solve. So their investigation started in really the most direct way you can imagine. They decided to just listen in, to literally eavesdrop on the brain cells running the show. And the setup was actually pretty simple but brilliant. They took these tiny slices from the hypothalamus, that's where the key stress neurons live. Then they added a synthetic stress hormone and just listened. They used some incredibly sensitive gear to record all the electrical chatter going back and forth between the cells. And this is what they found. Look, on the left, that's the normal busy chatter between neurons. But on the right, once they added that stress hormone, see that? The signals get way less frequent. It's almost like someone literally turned down the volume on the brain's conversation. The brain was quieting itself down. And here's what's so cool. It was super specific. The number of signals, the frequency, plummeted by over 40%. But the strength, or the loudness, of each individual signal barely budged. So this is a huge clue. The brain wasn't whispering, it was just talking less. Okay, so they figured something out. But this discovery, it actually created a whole new puzzle, a biological paradox that at first made absolutely no sense. So, get this. Here's the puzzle. All their tests showed the stress hormone was hitting the receiving cell, the one listening to the messages. But the effect, that talking less thing, was happening back at the sending cell, the one transmitting the messages. Right? How does that even work? How can something happening at point A cause an effect way back at point B? That's like pressing your friend's doorbell and it making your phone stop ringing. It just doesn't add up. There was really only one way to explain it. The receiving cell, once it got hit with that stress hormone, had to be sending a secret message backwards across the gap to tell the sender, hey, chill out. And just like that, the hunt was on. Now they had to find this secret backward messenger that was running the brain's stress off switch. So they brought in the usual suspects. In neuroscience, when you're looking for a backward messenger, you look at gases like nitric oxide and carbon monoxide. They're the go-to candidates, the first ones you checked. But nope, one by one, they were cleared. The data was crystal clear. Even when they blocked nitric oxide, even when they got rid of any carbon monoxide, the stress hormone still worked its magic. The chatter still quieted down. It had to be something else, something nobody expected. And this right here is where the story gets really good. With all the obvious answers wrong, the scientists decided to test a wild card, and it led to the breakthrough. So what was this wild card? Endocannabinoids. Now, these are molecules your own body makes that are basically, well, they're like your brain's own built-in cannabis. They latch onto the very same receptors, and they're one of the brain's main ways of just telling everything to chill out. And bam, that was it, the aha moment. As soon as they added a drug that blocks the brain's cannabinoid receptors, the entire effect of the stress hormone just disappeared, gone. The chatter between the neurons stayed loud. They'd found their secret messenger. The conclusion was inescapable. And I'll just read it right from their paper. The inhibitory effect of glucocorticoids on glutamate release appears to be mediated by a retrograde endocannabinoid messenger. Case closed. So, okay, let's recap.
A stress hormone tells a brain cell to release its own cannabis-like molecule, which then travels backward to quiet down the conversation. It's an amazing mechanism for sure. But so what? Why does this matter for you and me?
This diagram pretty much sums up the whole story. You see the stress hormone, cort. It hits the receiving neuron. That neuron then shoots out an endocannabinoid, the CB. That little messenger travels backward, hits a receptor on the first neuron, and tells it to stop sending so many signals. That right there is the brain's emergency brake for stress. And this is a really big deal. We're not just talking about that feeling of calm after a jump scare. This link, this connection between the stress system and the endocannabinoid system, it helps run the whole show. It controls the main off switch for stress, sure, but it's also tied into appetite, energy, and even the release of other super important hormones like oxytocin.
So, it all started with a simple question. Why do we feel calm after we feel stressed? And it ended up uncovering this deep, fundamental connection between two major systems in our body that no one knew was there. It just makes you wonder, right? What other incredible biological secrets are just waiting inside us to be discovered?